Hi, Dr. Gimmer here, author of the book, How to Have Healthy Children in Spite of Western Medicine, Trashy Foods, and Know-It-All Relatives. Now, we're not going to be talking about this today. We're going to be answering some questions asked by people who have read this or have heard about it. And I have 5 of them here. Number 1, my pediatrician is nice and sincere, and pediatricians are baby experts, agreed. It seems it should be okay to trust what she says for us to do with our baby. Comments. So my comments are, yes, pediatricians are trained in babies very well. Examining them, for instance, they're experts at this. The problem is this. Babies, most of the time, don't need anything at all done with them. Just feed them, change their diaper, and they grow up just fine. And so what is there for the pediatrician to do? Well, to fill this void, they do some things that were taught in medical school, and more often, things that were taught for them to do by drug reps or at seminars. And these include putting tubes in babies' ears. We got along thousands of years without that. Cutting out tonsils and adenoids. These are important lymphatic tissues and they are immune tissues. And how about giving antibiotics? Well, most of the time these infections, if they are even there, will run their course on their own and many times as fast or faster without the antibiotic. And then last, the pediatricians are taught to give the babies vaccinations, horribly large amounts of these vaccinations. And these are the problems. It's not what they're trained to evaluate, it's what they're trained to do to your baby. And that's where the problems come in. None of my kids have ever been to a pediatrician, ever. 10 of them, never a pediatrician, never a pediatric visit. Just that's me. So that's all I have to say about that. They're wonderful people. I have 2 pediatric, they're both females, close friends. I like them both a lot, but I don't like what they do to kids. Question number 2. Okay, if it's just a tiny bit of a toxin, can't a body get rid of it? Can't a body eliminate it? And the answer is absolutely yes. And you know, going back 50 years ago, this was a very valid theory. They could give, say, DDT to mosquitoes, and to kill mosquitoes, and a little bit would work up the food chain to us, and it was just a little bit, not a big deal. At least not a real big deal. But let's look at what's happened since then. When I was a kid, 3 or 4 or 5 vaccinations. Now, 75 by the time they're age 12. Wow, that's a lot. And every one of these has 12 or 15 or 18 very serious poisons in it, in small amounts. But do you think this adds up? Absolutely. Secondly, fluoride is in the water, and if you eat a beverage at a fast food place or get it out of the tap or any number of other places there's fluoride in the water. Fluoride can cause tumors and also lowers the development of the brain and lowers IQ, about 5 points is said. And so that's another problem. And then we have all of the agricultural poisons. My goodness, they are spraying millions of tons of Roundup and other poisons on our food crops. And that adds up. And then how about what goes into the foods? Colors, sweeteners, flavors, all of the stuff that goes into the thing. Did you know that if you just get a scoop of strawberry ice cream, there are 50 different chemicals in it? And this is true of almost anything. Can you imagine what's in some of these breakfast cereals, some of these candies? There's horrible stuff in there, chemicals, chemicals, chemicals. And can we eliminate a little bit? Yes. Can we eliminate all of this? It's an overload. But it's worse. Babies do not have the systems yet developed adequately to eliminate any of these. Babies are only designed to have breast milk and nothing but until they have teeth. So think about that. What might be in Similac? What might be in any of these things? All these vaccinations, and you're going to be the baby's being overwhelmed by poisons. Let's go on to number 3. Is there really any harm in using antibiotics? Okay, this is kind of what we talked about a minute ago, but here's the problem with antibiotics. First off, they're usually not needed. Just let the infection run its course, and if there's a fever, by the way, that imparts immunity that actually later in life gives the child a better chance of not having cancer and other serious conditions like that. But the other problem with antibiotics is they kill the bacteria they're trying to get rid of, if they're there, and a whole lot of others also. That's the problem. And so you kill the good guys and the bad ones at the same time. It's like blowing up a whole city to get rid of the gangsters. It's just a bad idea from that standpoint. But the other problem is, once all the bacteria have been killed, the good ones and the bad ones, let's say good and bad, then the problem is that unless you thoroughly repopulate the good bacteria, it's a breeding ground for the bad bacteria to develop. And of course, the last thing, obviously, is the antibiotics kill off all the weaker bacteria, leaving the stronger ones to repopulate, and that's what you get, and that's why we have these antibiotic-resistant strains. You know, a tragic thing, one of my daughter's gymnastics teammates, she just one day got some infection, and it was completely unstoppable by any antibiotics available anywhere, and she died, 12, 13 years old. And this wasn't caused by an infection, it was caused by years of antibiotics and antiseptics and all these things that are around that are killing all the weak bacteria, leaving the strong ones, the really dirty bad guys, to multiply. So enough said on that one. So that's the problem with antibiotics. Okay, number 4, why are they giving so many vaccinations? So this kind of, some of these have an overlap, as you can see. Well, like I said, when I was a kid, we got 3 or 4, sometimes 5. We were really healthy back then. What's happening now, 2 things. The pediatricians believe, they've been just pounded into believing that the more vaccinations, the better. And the problem with this is, instead of 3 or 4 like when I was a kid, they're at 75 now. There are 250 more vaccinations in the pipeline, and every drug company that's making these wants to get these vaccinations on the mandated schedule so that they're given to kids. So we're at about 75 shots now by the time a kid is 12 years old. When I say shots, this is vaccinations. Some of them have 3 or 4 or 5 in one shot. But anyhow, about 75 vaccinations by the time a kid is 12 now. That could go up to 100 or 150. It could go up to 200. And all of these have, like I said, many toxins in them. So that all adds up, and it's getting to be a bigger and bigger and bigger problem. And by the way, the people that are pushing this stuff are going around the country trying to get rid of your constitutional and religious and personal right to not get these vaccinations. They're going to outlaw you from doing what you think is right if you let them. It's already California. They're hitting Washington right now. It's going to be all over the place. And I hope that you'll stand up and literally go to your Capitol building and talk to these people and tell them to not do it. It's a bad idea. So anyhow, enough on that there. Okay, number 5. My in-laws laugh at us for buying organic foods. They won't listen to a long explanation of why we buy them. Can you give me a short thing to say to them? Yes, there's 2 parts of this. Organic foods have more of all of the nutrient building blocks we need to build and maintain healthy bodies. The other ones are grown on depleted soil that's been worked and worked and worked, and they don't have in them the minerals and nutrients that the organic ones have. Now, they'll try to tell you this isn't true. It is absolutely true. The organic foods have stuff in them, lots of things in them, that are not in the commercial foods. The other problem is, so let's look at it this way. So one answer here is we want to get the nutrients in that are needed, but the second part of this is we need to keep the poisons out that aren't needed. And like I said, all of the agricultural poisons, shoot, they're putting Roundup on crops by the millions of tons. And this is terrible stuff. And all of these things that get into the foods that are not organic are very bad for your child. So the short version is the organic foods have more nutrients that get in, and they keep the poisons out. That's the short version there. Well, send in your questions. We'll be happy to answer them when time is available. Thank you very much for being here. And if you haven't got this book yet, my goodness, get a copy of it. You'll love it. It's pretty fun. Okay, thank you. We'll see you soon.